I didn't argue. Didn't beg. Didn't even ask why. She flipped her hair like I was an outdated brochure, barely worth her time. "We don't need old men dragging us down," she said. That was it. No warning. No thank you. My name's Stanley Rowe. I'm 59 years old. For 18 years. I kept the wheels turning at Harper Machinery in Indianapolis quietly. Efficiently. Not a man of speeches. Just the one they called when a process jammed or a number didn't add up. I trained half the staff here, some of them fresh-faced kids when they walked through the door, now grown men and women with families, and none of them looked me in the eye as I packed up my things. Not one. No farewell. No handshake. Just me in a cardboard box holding the remains of almost 2 decades. Vanessa 28. MBA from Miami. Perfume like she owned the air around her. Had taken over after her father stepped down. She wanted modernization. Fresh blood. Translation. Get rid of anyone who remembered how things were built before spreadsheets became gospel. I didn't slam the door. Didn't curse her name. Just walked to my truck. Put the box in the passenger seat. Saturday there a minute. Hands still on the wheel. You'd think I'd feel anger. Or grief. Or rage. But what I felt was calm. Because Vanessa didn't read the fine print. Didn't check the contract. The one Charles Harper himself signed. The one that said if they let me go without cause, they owed me 2 years' salary. And that, right there, changed everything. And before we get into the story, I want to ask you, maybe something in this story spoke to you. And if it did, we'd love to know. Where are you listening from? What are you feeling so far? Here at Voices Stories. We don't just tell stories, we open spaces for them to be felt. So if you feel like sharing something, a thought, a memory, or just a quiet hello, drop it in the comments. We're always listening. And if you'd like to keep walking with us, a gentle tap on that subscribe button is all it takes. No rush. The rest of the story is waiting, and we're glad you're here for it. Charles Harper wasn't just a boss. Not to me. He was the kind of man who believed that loyalty could be earned, not demanded. That experience could outweigh credentials. That a firm handshake and an honest word were still worth something. When I first met him, I was 41, fresh off a layoff from a dying auto parts plant. My resume barely filled a page. I had hands-on know-how, a community college degree, and bills stacking up faster than job offers. Charles didn't blink. "Degree don't build machines," he said across the table. "Men who know what they're doing do." He hired me on the spot. Within 2 years, I was operations manager. We were never friends in the way some men are. Never fished together. Never grabbed drinks after work. But there was a quiet current of trust between us, strong and steady. Like the gears we built. When my wife Linda got sick, it was Charles who adjusted my entire schedule. Didn't ask questions. Didn't make a speech. Just slipped the revised roster on my desk one morning with a note. "Family first. Stanley. Always." I never forgot that. He saw the whole person, not just the job title, not just the output. He'd started Harper Machinery in a garage, with one lathe and a dream. No outside investors. No flashy slogans. Just good work and a reputation that spread like wildfire across the Midwest. And when his health began to slip, when the long days started catching up to him, he called me into his office and said, "You're the only one I trust not to cut corners." That wasn't a compliment. It was a charge. A mission. I ran that plant with everything I had. Quietly. Efficiently. I wasn't building a career anymore. I was protecting someone else's legacy. And for 18 years, I thought that was enough. But loyalty, it only works when it flows both ways. The first shift was subtle. She started showing up at meetings. Never announced. Never invited. Just walked in like she already owned the room. Vanessa Harper. Charles's daughter. Fresh off her MBA from somewhere sunny and expensive. Miami. I think. She carried herself like someone who'd read more strategy decks than she had actual problems to solve. high heels clicking across the floor like punctuation to buzzwords. Synergy, streamlining, market disruption, and perfume. Enough of it to make the ventilation system work overtime. She came in with a leather-bound portfolio and ideas that made the engineers wince. Told us we were too legacy-driven, that we needed leaner, smarter systems, that we had to evolve or be left behind. Most of us just sat in silence. We weren't against change. Hell, we'd implemented plenty of new systems over the years. But we changed things because we had to, because the machines demanded it. The clients needed it. Or the quality control insisted, not because some spreadsheet told us so. I remember watching Charles during those meetings. He'd sit at the end of the table, arms crossed, listening, never interrupting her, never contradicting. But I caught him wincing more than once. A slight twitch of the jaw. A glance down at his hands like he was holding something back. She once suggested outsourcing our precision welding to a vendor in Mexico. Said it would save 18% annually. Charles didn't say a word, just nodded slightly. But the next day, the proposal was quietly pulled. No explanation. No argument. She kept pushing. Though, and he kept absorbing it. Like a dam trying to hold back a storm. Then one afternoon, I was in my office recalibrating a staffing rotation chart when Charles leaned against my doorframe. He looked tired. Not the kind of tired you fix with sleep, the kind that lives in your bones. She's got to learn. Stanley, he said. I stopped typing. Turned to face him. Some lessons. He continued. Eyes on the floor. I can't come from books. Then he walked off. And I sat there, wondering when the learning would stop and the breaking would begin. Charles announced his retirement 3 months ago. Said it was due to heart trouble. Though anyone who knew him could tell it wasn't just that. He looked defeated, not physically, but in the eyes, like something inside him had collapsed long before his body did. He handed me a revised org chart one day. Vanessa's name at the top in bold letters. I made her promise, he said, not quite meeting my eyes. Promise to keep the core team intact. The experience you all bring, that's what makes this place work. I nodded. But something inside me curled in on itself. Not because of what he said, but because of what he didn't. He couldn't even look me in the face. He knew. Maybe not the details, but enough. 3 months later, she called me into her office. Didn't even offer me a seat. Just gestured toward the door after one sentence about new leadership and alignment. So I walked out. Quietly. No scene. No shouting. No rage. I returned to my office and packed my things in silence. Framed photo of Linda and the kids. The travel mug I'd used every morning since 2007. A wrench set gifted by the floor team on my 10th work anniversary. I placed each item in a single cardboard box. 18 years. Reduced to 14 pounds of memories. No one spoke to me. The younger staff glanced up, then looked quickly away. A few of them, the ones I'd trained when they were still high school interns, shifted awkwardly in their seats. Like they wanted to say something, but didn't. And that, more than anything, told me what kind of place Harper was becoming. I carried the box out to my truck. The metal handle squeaked, like always. Slid the passenger door open. Set the box gently inside. And I just sat there, both hands on the wheel. From where I was parked, I could see the entire production floor through the wide glass windows, the lines I'd optimized, the machines I'd overseen, the staff I'd hired, everything I'd given so much to hold together, now continuing on like I was already forgotten. But I wasn't angry. I was ready. Because tucked inside my glove box was something Vanessa had never even thought to check. My contract. Page 17. Section 12. Paragraph 3. A clause inserted by Charles Harper himself when he promoted me. Termination, without documented cause. 2 years' salary. Guaranteed. Not a loophole. Not a trick. Just Charles keeping his word even when his daughter couldn't. 3 days after they fired me, I sat across from Vanessa, in a glass-walled conference room downtown. Harold Preston was beside me, calm, collected, dressed in a worn tweed blazer, like he had all the time in the world. He'd been waiting for a case like this. Vanessa didn't even acknowledge me when she entered. Just dropped her tablet on the table like a gavel and sat down, arms crossed. The company lawyer was young, maybe 30. Looked like he still got carded for beer. He had a folder in front of him. Thin, nervous fingers flipping it open. "This is a waste of everyone's time," Vanessa said flatly. "We're moving the company forward. That's cause enough." Harold didn't flinch. He simply tapped the contract in front of him. Already open to Section 12. Termination without cause. As defined in Appendix C. He said. Voice low but firm. 2 years' salary. That's approximately $320. 000 for Mr. Rao. The young lawyer Justin. I think his name was scanned the paragraph. Eyes darting faster the longer he read. Vanessa leaned forward. He was undermining my authority. That's insubordination. Harold raised an eyebrow. And where's the documentation, written warnings, performance reviews, improvement plans? Silence. Justin flipped through the folder. Nothing. Vanessa's jaw tightened. Fine. So we pay him a few months severance and move on. 24 months. Harold said. Calm as stone. This is absurd. She snapped. We'll offer 6. Take it or leave it. I stayed quiet, just watching her. She reminded me of her father in that moment. Same fire. Same stubborn chin, but none of the weight behind it. Charles had fought for people. Vanessa fought to win. Harold calmly closed his briefcase. Then we'll move to legal action. Discovery will include age-based termination patterns. The board might find that illuminating. Justin's face paled. He whispered something to Vanessa. She ignored him. She looked at me then, like a challenge. You'll be tied up in court for years. Good luck finding another job at your age. And that's when the door opened. Charles walked in. Thinner, paler, but eyes still sharp. He didn't look at her, just spoke. Quietly, Vanessa. She stiffened. We're in the middle of. Not now, he said. They stepped outside, through the glass. I watched them argue, his hand raised. Her arms locked tight. She shook her head once, twice. When they came back in, Vanessa wouldn't look at me. Charles turned to the young lawyer. Prepare the severance agreement. As written. Dad, she started. Not now, he said again. Voice steel. Then he looked at me. I'm sorry. Stanley. This isn't what I wanted. I nodded. That was enough. Harold and I stood. But before I could leave, Vanessa stepped in front of me. This isn't over, she said coldly. I'm reviewing all vendor relationships. Anyone who hires you, they lose our business. Charles visibly flinched but didn't say a word. I nodded again. Steady. And I thought about Douglas, and what he'd offered, and the one thing I knew for sure. It wasn't over. Some people fight for control. Others fight for what's right. Have you ever been in a moment like that where staying quiet felt stronger than shouting? We'd love to know your thoughts. Here at Voices Stories, we keep these moments alive. Stories not just to hear, but to feel. If this one stayed with you even a little, feel free to leave a comment or share what it stirred up. And if you want to stay close to stories like this, just tap that subscribe. Quietly. No rush. Next part's coming soon. You won't want to miss what happens next. She stood there, blocking my way, like she still had control. Her chin lifted, voice sharp enough to cut steel. This isn't over, she said. Any company that hires you, they'll never work with Harper again. It wasn't a threat. It was a reflex, the kind people use when power starts slipping through their fingers. I didn't argue, didn't flinch. Just looked at her. Really looked. She wasn't angry. Not really. She was scared. Scared of losing the grip she never truly earned. Scared that maybe, just maybe, everything she'd tried to build wasn't actually hers. Behind her, Charles looked down at the floor. He didn't stop her. Didn't speak. That silence said more than words ever could. I nodded once. Calm. Not défiant. Not smug. Just certain. Because I'd had a conversation the day before. One that changed everything. Douglas Clean, owner of Precision Parts, had reached out again. He'd been trying to lure me away from Harper for years. But this time, I called him first. Still interested in that conversation, I'd asked. He was. More than ever. Not just to hire me. To build something with me. The same afternoon, Vanessa threatened me in that glass-walled room. I sat in Douglas's office reviewing specs for a new product line, niche hydraulic components Harper had always ignored. High margin. Low volume. Too specialized. Vanessa once said, not worth it. But to me, it was the future. And now, it could be ours. I hadn't signed anything yet. No contracts. No handshakes. But I had the box of tools still in my truck. And a gut instinct I hadn't felt in years. Something was coming. Not revenge. Not even justice. But a rebuild. That night, I didn't sleep. Not out of anxiety. Out of clarity. I sat at the kitchen table long after midnight. The contract still spread out in front of me. Yellow highlighter marks like battle scars across the page. But this wasn't about money anymore. It was about value. About the people who built something and got pushed aside like outdated parts. About everything we knew that never showed up on a PowerPoint slide. The next morning, I picked up the phone and called Thomas Baldwin, former head of engineering, 12 years under his belt. The man could sketch a pressure valve with a pen, a napkin, and a cup of cold coffee. They let me go too, he said quietly. No surprise in his voice. Just weariness. Then Jennifer, head of quality control, ran that lab like it was her cathedral. She said I was too rigid. Jennifer told me, too focused on process. Imagine that. By noon, I had spoken to every senior employee Vanessa had let go. Some were stunned. Others were furious. But all of them were adrift. I didn't make promises. I just said, check your contracts. Then call Harold. They listened. Then I made one more call, the call that mattered most. Douglas, I said, still serious about starting something new. He didn't hesitate. When can we meet? That same week. I walked into his office. He had supplier lists already drafted. Equipment vendors on standby. A space rented an old warehouse on the east side of town. All he needed was people. And I knew exactly where to find them. We wouldn't rebuild Harper. That ship had sailed. But we could build something else smaller. Leaner. But rooted in something real. Experience. Precision. Trust. We called it a partnership. But really, it was an answer. 2 days later, Jennifer called me. Not from her personal number, from a landline at a pharmacy. Of all places. Can't talk long, she said. But you need to know what's happening. She still had 3 years until retirement, which made quitting impossible. But staying didn't mean silence. Not for someone like her. Vanessa's liquidating equipment, she said. The specialized machinery Charles ordered last year, already half gone. I stood still in my driveway. Phone pressed to my ear. Gone house sold. Auctioned. Probably. I heard numbers that made me sick. We paid over $2 million for those machines. She probably got 30 cents on the dollar. Jennifer's voice cracked slightly, not with emotion, but with disbelief. She's not even hiding it. Stanley. It's like she's turning the company into cash as fast as she can. I thanked her. Hung up. Walked inside. Sat down. And stared at the wall for a full 5 minutes. This wasn't about poor leadership anymore. This was gutting. This was something else entirely. I called Thomas. Told him what Jennifer had said. He was quiet for a moment. Then said, she's stripping Harper. Turning assets into cash. And guess who's been buying beachfront property in Miami under a holding company? I didn't answer. Didn't need to. And that's when the last thread snapped. Whatever hesitation I'd had about loyalty, legacy, I guilt it disappeared in that moment. This wasn't about taking something from Harper. It was about protecting everything it used to stand for. Thomas, I said, we're not waiting anymore. My phone rang just after lunch. Charles Harper. The name lit up like a ghost. I stared at the screen for a second longer than I should have. Part of me didn't want to answer. Part of me still cared. Stanley, he said when I picked up. His voice sounded different, smaller somehow. We need to talk. I leaned back in my chair, looking out over the floor of the new warehouse. I'm listening. A long sigh on the other end. The kind you let out when pride finally gives way to truth. I know what you're doing, he said. The company, the people you've hired. Still, I said nothing. It's not illegal. It's not even unethical. It's just smart. He paused. And it's working. I stayed quiet. Let him carry the weight of his own words. Vanessa's been selling off assets. He continued. She cut quality control. Outsourced everything. The board is panicking. So am I. A beat of silence. Why are you telling me this? Charles, another pause. Longer. He didn't answer right away. Then finally, because you're the only one who still understands how this place works. Every gear. Every name. Every flaw and every fix. You see what it was? And what it still could be? I looked down at the floor of Cornerstone, our place now where machines were being installed. Workers trained. Lives quietly rebuilt. He went on. I should have listened to you. Stanley. Back when you warned me she wasn't ready. And for a moment, I wasn't a man with a new company. I was the man who stood by him for 18 years. What exactly are you asking? A small breath from his end. Come to my house tonight. 7 o'clock. Bring Thomas if he's willing. The board will be there. We need to discuss options. Options? I repeated. Yes. His voice steadied. Just a little. Including a change in leadership. I glanced again at the machines humming on our warehouse floor. At the plans spread across the table. The new start that was no longer just an idea, but a promise. I'll be there, I said, but I'm not promising anything. Fair enough, he said softly, then paused one more time. And Stanley, yeah, thanks for still taking my calls. 6 months after she fired me. I stood at the back of the Harper Machinery conference room. Same long table, same chairs, same overhead lights humming faintly above. Everything looked the same, except it wasn't. Vanessa sat at the head of the table, surrounded by her new executive team, all under 35. All in expensive suits they hadn't earned. She was halfway through a PowerPoint, blaming market volatility, unrealistic legacy systems, and inefficient vendor relationships. The numbers were devastating. 37% drop in revenue. 3 major contracts lost. Backlog delays. Quality control failure. She never once said the word mistake. And then she saw me. Her eyes locked on mine like I was a ghost. What is he doing here? She demanded. Voice cracking. Charles sat quietly beside the board members. Hands folded. Gaze steady. The chairman nodded to him. Charles gave a subtle nod to the chairman. And the chairman stood. Vanessa, he said. The board has reached a decision regarding the company's leadership. Her face drained of color. You can't be serious. Then the chairman turned to me. Stanley Rowe, he said. Would you like to explain the new arrangement? I stepped forward. Same room. Same floor. But for the first time in a long time, my voice was the one they listened to. I held up a folder thick. Stumped. And final. The board has approved a full acquisition. I said. Harper Machinery is merging with Cornerstone Precision. Wann ist erlaubt? Bitter. This is absurd. I'm the majority shareholder. Charles rose. Calm. Quiet. You hold 20%, he said. I retained 51. and I voted in favor of the merger. She froze, hands trembling now. No, no. You can't just, I just did. I slid the folder across the table. The custom hydraulics division will be absorbed by Cornerstone. I said, the rest will remain under new leadership. And from the doorway, Thomas stepped in. I'll take it from here, he said. Simply, clearly. The same voice that once explained complex systems now announcing something far more human. Vanessa grabbed the folder, flipped pages with shaking fingers. Her breath caught. This is business, she choked. No, I said. This is correction. She didn't speak again. And for the first time since Charles retired, the room felt right. A year after the merger, I stood on the observation platform of our expanded production facility. The floors were smooth, the air warm with machine heat and metal. The rhythm of work, that mechanical heartbeat I'd missed, was back. Stronger. Clearer. Ours. Cornerstone Precision and Harper Custom Hydraulics now shared a roof. Not just in name. Not just on paper, but in purpose. Below, I watched Jason Wright, our CNC programmer, training 2 new hires. He used to be underpaid, underutilized. Now, he was leading innovation. In the back lab, Jennifer stood in her white coat, inspecting components with the same exacting grace as always, except now. She was smiling. Thomas, always with a pencil behind his ear, sketched a design modification by hand before feeding it into the system. No slides. No meetings. Just doing the work. People who once had to defend their value were now defining it. Charles joined me at the railing, leaning on his cane. His health hadn't improved much, but his spirit, it was different. He'd started visiting more often. Not to supervise, but to watch. Quarterly numbers just came in, he said, handing me a printout. Best margins in 5 years. Employee turnover stabilized. 3 new patents filed. He smiled. It was small, quiet, but real. Vanessa called yesterday, he said suddenly. I turned slightly, said nothing. She's in Miami, he continued, starting a consulting firm. Asked if I'd invest. Will you? He shook his head. I told her come back to Indianapolis first. Learn the business. From the floor up. Like I did. Like you did. And she hung up. He laughed. Then, softer, but, she called again this morning. Asked if the offer still stood. We stood there a moment longer, looking down at what we'd built, machines running. Minds at work. Experience and innovation not in conflict, but dancing with each other. Funny, Charles said. When I wrote that severance clause in your contract, I never imagined it'd lead to all this. I smiled. Neither did I. We didn't win in court. We didn't stage a dramatic takeover. We just showed up, did the work, held the line, and the company came back to life not because of revenge, not even strategy, but because we remembered what mattered. People, purpose, pride in doing things right. I don't think Vanessa was a villain. She was young, too eager to prove herself, too far removed from the heartbeat of a factory floor. But Harper machinery wasn't something you could just run from spreadsheets. It had to be felt, heard, lived. I think Charles knew that all along. That's why he called, not to fix what was broken, but to protect what was still breathing. And me, I never wanted to take anything from anyone. I just wanted to build something that could last, something that gave people back their worth. Now, when I walk through the floor, no one looks away. They nod, they wave, they ask questions, offer ideas. Not because I'm in charge, but because they know this place isn't built on one person's name. It's built on many hands, many failures, and a shared belief that good work still matters. Some lessons are expensive, but the ones that stick, the ones that change how you see the world, those are always worth the price. Some stories don't end with applause. They end with quiet hands, steady hearts, and a space where people finally feel seen. That's all I ever wanted. So if something in this story made you stop, maybe sit a little longer with it. And if you'd like to keep listening well, you already know where to find us. This is Voices Stories, where we keep what matters alive quietly. If this story stayed with you, tell us what part did, or just leave a quiet word. We read them all. A simple comment, a share, a silent subscribe. It's enough. It helps keep these stories breathing. Thank you for listening truly.